Hey guys, welcome to our lesson on support and resistance. In a nutshell, support and resistance are just areas we identify on a chart where price may hit and bounce or reverse and move in the opposite direction. And to do this, we just draw in some simple lines, horizontal lines, and also diagonal lines, otherwise known as trend lines. What we want to do is initially identify the key levels. Keep it simple, keep it obvious where prices reacted from. So to do that, we start from the higher time frame, and as we work our way down, those levels should still be seen and respected on the lower time frames. That way, once we see them across multiple time frames, we know that they are actually key levels that prices behaved off of frequently and previously. So let's just draw a couple in. Let's just stick to the main ones. Let's just maybe do 2 or 3. Here's a level here. Pretty obvious support structure there. Another one here. Pretty good support level there. And one more here. So they're the 3 main ones that stuck out for me straight away. If you can look at a chart and in 2 seconds see a couple of levels, they're usually key levels. If you have to stare at it for 5 minutes and try and navigate and find a level, it's not key level. No need to put it in. Just stick to the key levels initially, and as we get to the lower time frames, we can start to tweak it from there. Just before we move on, we've made the 3 key levels now, but I'll identify another couple of levels which are actually reasonably obvious, but they're not as clean. So I call these minor levels. So we can put one in, say, here. It's had support here, resistance here, but price has actually moved through it here a couple of times, and here and here. So on the lower time frames, these will probably be a little bit more obvious and clear, but higher time frames, not so much. We delete those and stick to these 3. These are clean and crisp on the higher time frames, and you'll find that even on the daily, 4 hour, 1 hour, they'll be pretty clean all the way down. Whereas that one I just drew in and then deleted, we'll probably only see that nice and clean on the lower time frames. And as you'll get to know through the lessons, the higher the time frame, the more impact it has on price action. So the higher time frames definitely hold more weight than the lower time frames. All right, let's zoom down to the daily. See what we can find down there. Alrighty, daily chart actually looks a lot cleaner on the daily than it did the weekly. So what we can see here, I haven't moved these 3 lines. Nice resistance here, lots of support here. So just before we move on, I'll actually explain the difference between support and resistance. So support is holding price to the upside. It wants to keep price above the level. Resistance is price rejecting a level and being kept to the downside. So this level here, resistance being kept to the downside. Here, support, price being kept to the upside. Resistance, price kept to the downside. Support, price kept to the upside. So they're the exact same level, it's just which way price action is going to bounce and rebound off that level. Alrighty, weekly and daily look pretty sweet. Let's go down the 4 hour, see how clear and obvious it is down there. Alright, so here we are on the 4 hour. Same thing, pretty clear and obvious that price has moved off this level. But what we're finding now is price is actually sinking and moving into the level a little bit before, rather than bouncing off it perfectly. So you need to think of support and resistance as a trampoline in this regard. So price can sink into it a little bit before it rebounds and bounces off. So quite often once you get to key horizontal support and resistance, you can actually probably call them more of a zone rather than perhaps, I guess, a brick wall in this case. Alright, so here we can see that price has sort of sunk into this zone here. Higher time frames, it's one single line and it's pretty obvious and clean. This 4 hour chart has sunk in before bouncing off. So is it still valid? Yep, of course it is. You just got to be aware that price doesn't bounce directly off a solid line every single time. Alright, the last thing I want to point out is what makes a good horizontal support and resistance line. So really initially we want 2 touches of a line to give us an indication that it might support price or reject price. Between 3 and 6, that's a really good horizontal level. So once we get past 6, especially in a close range like this, the support or resistance level can often give way. So I liken this to a brick wall rather than the trampoline effect I explained earlier. So say you've got a hammer, you keep hitting a brick wall, you keep smashing it, eventually it's going to crack and break. So it's been hit here as support over and over and over and over again, and eventually it just gave way. So does that mean that this level is no longer valid? Definitely not at all. Down the future, when price comes back to this level, price can most certainly behave again off of these levels. Alright, so in a nutshell, that's pretty much it, guys. There's no need to complicate support and resistance. We can keep it easy. The other thing I just want to point out, you may have gathered already, what was once support can then often turn into resistance. And you'll hear me say this nearly daily, break and retest. So what we've got here, we've got support, 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 break and retest. So what was once support breaks and now becomes resistance. Same level, different direction of price action. That's it in a nutshell. So keep it simple, keep your lines clear and obvious. This line here is obvious. We can all see it. Need about a nanosecond to find it. You know, we could put a support line here. Look, sure, there's a few rejections of this level, but it's not clear, it's not crisp. It takes a little bit longer to identify. Tick to these ones here. That's what all the traders can see. It's obvious. Most of the price action is probably more likely to behave off of this level rather than that one I just moved to before. So that's it for horizontal levels. Let's flick over to some trend lines now and have a look. Alright, trend lines. How do we do it? Well, I explained the basics with the horizontal support and resistance. Same applies with trend lines. Keep it simple. We want at least 2 touches to identify it, 3 touches to confirm it. 3 to 6 is an excellent trend line. We may get many, many more touches, but from there on, especially in a short window of price action, more touches, the weaker that level gets. So let's draw one in. Right, pretty clear trend line. Price has been supporting that all the way along, multiple rejections before finally breaking. Right, another little trend line over here. Now, right, that one's chopped through a little bit, so this one's not quite as clean, but you can still see it. Much like the trampoline effect, price might sink into the trend line a little bit. Consider it a soft line rather than a hard line. Price has respected this level, multiple touches to make it valid, and also the same with horizontal, break and retest. So resistance to the downside of the trend line, and then break and retest to become support. And off we go, trend change, trading opportunity, off it goes. Right, one more thing I'll point out is variance in trend lines. One's only got a couple of touches. Let's say this. Alright, so some people like to draw their trend lines on the wicks. Me personally, I like to go through the body of the candle because that is the close, the open and close of the candle. That is the actual confirmation of the actual price at the end of that candle and time frame. The wicks are the highs and lows. So the main thing is you just want to be consistent. You either want to use the body of the candle or the wick. It's one or the other. Don't mix and match. So say for example here, got a wick there, and then you use the body there. Just keep it the same. Keep it consistent, and you'll have good effects. If you keep mixing and matching, you're going to lose your bias over time. If you're trading breakouts or a retest, this little gap here might not seem too much, but if you're trading smaller time frames, this little gap here could be the difference between whether you get stopped out or whether you actually even enter the trade at all. So that's it for trend lines. Keep it clear, keep it obvious for both horizontal and trend lines. 2 touches to get an idea, 3 touches to get a confirmation. That's it. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial, guys. I look forward to giving you the next lesson. Give me a buzz if you've got any questions.